Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
In order for this Trump Tower deal to go through, sanctions had to be lifted on a Russian state bank. At the same time, Donald Trump is out there pushing to lift sanctions on Russia and this bank. There's no way to describe that as cool or ethical or in the national interest. It means that the president, whether he won or lost, was hoping to make money from Russia, was seeking at the same time to enlist the support of the Kremlin to make that money. And what's more, when this came to light, the Kremlin intervened. Mr. Peskov, the spokesman for the Kremlin, intervened to help Donald Trump and his business in the cover-up. That is so deeply compromising. And we have to remember what the Mueller investigation began as the Comey investigation was a counterintelligence investigation. That is an investigation into whether Donald Trump and his organization were compromised. And now, via Michael Cohen, we find out that, yes, there was compromise, and that puts our country at risk.
Oh, my God. So the president of the United States, there's, a wide agreement that the president of the United States is compromised by Russia, and that the way that the compromise happened, well, we don't know, if the whole Steele dossier is true, but the way that the compromise happened is that Russia knew that Trump was lying the whole time. He was saying, I have nothing to do with Russia. I don't, yes, I have a relationship with Vlad. No, I don't have a relationship with Vlad. That Junior was lying, we don't have anything to do, and blah, blah. And Putin knew that Trump was willing to lie for him. That whole Helsinki thing at that summit, oh my God, where Trump was like laying prone with his butt up in the air for Vladimir Putin to, abuse him. That was the sickest thing I'd ever seen a president do, just to acquiesce. Well, he denied it very strongly and very forcefully, so that Putin knows that he's got material on the president of the United States that could embarrass him, that could, show Donald Trump to his sycophants as being a cover-up person for a conspiracy between Vladimir Putin to purchase Donald Trump. Oh my God, this is just sick. This is crazy. We've never seen anything like it. And of course, Schiff is going to be in charge of the House Intelligence Committee.
There is now testimony, there is now a witness who confirms that in the same way Michael Flynn was compromised, that the president and his business are compromised. Oh. And that is the former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was compromised because he was saying things publicly that were not true about discussions with the Russians over sanctions. And now we have Michael Cohen saying that what the president was saying, what Michael Cohen was saying and others were saying about when this business deal ended was not true. And what's more, the Russians knew it wasn't true. That at the same time that Donald Trump was the presumptive nominee of the GOP and arguing in favor of doing away with sanctions, he was working on a deal that would require doing away with sanctions for him to make money in Russia. Oy. That is a real problem. It means that the compromise is far broader than we thought.
So you had the Russians, actually being sought out by Donald Trump in public, Russia, if you're listening, right? And then behind the scenes, you had Russia supplying everything that Donald Trump was asking Russia to do for him so that he could become the president, and then lying about it to the point where now Russia's got compromise on the president of the United States. It's unbelievable. Manafort then becomes a person who feigns cooperation with Robert Mueller and ends up being a snitch, a rat. He's going from Robert Mueller and pretending he's on the side of our government, and he's cooperating with our government and our ability to enforce the laws. But really what he's doing is passing information back to Donald Trump. I mean, this is just so sick. This is just crazy.
Bob Mueller has also determined that Paul Manafort lied to him as he was supposed to be cooperating with the special counsel. We learned also that he was sticking with the joint defense agreement, talking to President Trump's attorneys while ostensibly cooperating with prosecutors. What's the significance of that?
Well, it means that Paul Manafort was double dealing. Basically, he was going through the pretense of cooperating, but he was really, in an underhanded way, supplying information to the Trump legal defense team. And of course, the president continues to dangle a pardon for Paul Manafort, which only adds to the growing body of evidence that the president is engaged in obstructing justice. That, I think, is the ultimate significance here. But I think, as a practical matter, the special counsel is going to have to throw the book at Paul Manafort, as well as Mr. Corsi. You cannot have people who are essentially in discussions with you flaunt that process, deceive you, if you want to telegraph to other witnesses that you darn well better be true when you say you're going to cooperate with us.
Right. You see, the whole rule of law thing goes like right down the toilet. When you are allowed to lie to Congress, to law enforcement, to the intelligence committees, to the judiciary committees, when you're allowed to lie, when the president will pardon you for lying, when the president himself is lying, and that lie can be used against him in a situation to make him say, hey, murder of an American resident, fine, I'll look the other way. Murder of British citizens, we have this special relationship with the Brits. Murder of a British citizen or the poisoning of a British citizen and his daughter. It's all okay because those guys have what I want, and that's money. Then we become a nation of a man, not a nation of laws. You don't have a president who's a custodial keeper of power. You have a president who takes all power unto himself and literally defies what this nation is, and that's a nation of laws. I've never seen anything really like it. All the Trump associates that are under investigation for the same offense, basically, colluding and conspiring with Russia and lying about it. You got White House and cabinet officials. I mean, you got the National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn. He's about to get sentenced. I mean, you have the president's own personal attorney. You have, even if it's a lie, and they know it's a lie, they decide that they want to be loyal, not to the law, not to the Congress, not to the Constitution. They want to be loyal to Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump changes his story today, then they'll change their story today, too, even if they're on the record saying something else yesterday. Now, I remember when you couldn't get elected president, you couldn't be elected president because you voted for an $87 billion package, and then Congress changed it, and you had to vote against it. That was called flip-flopping. Remember that? That was John Kerry. Oh, my God. And that was Jerome Corsi. And that was Roger Stone. And I mean, these guys are just disgusting. And Mr. Donald Trump surrounded himself with the world's biggest liars, the people who were loyal to foreign, brutal governments, and lied about it and continues to lie about it. I mean, this happened at the very beginning when Sean Spicer, the first White House press secretary, had to falsely insist that Donald Trump had the largest inaugural crowd in the history of the world. Everybody who was a decent American said, oh, my God, oh, my God. They're going to lie from the presidential podium. They're not going to spin. They're not going to put the best face on things. Oh, hell no. They're going to create an alternate set of facts, an alternate reality where law and order doesn't matter. All that matters is Donald Trump. Law, screw it. Order, screw it. Transparency, honesty, not purchasing judges, not purchasing senators, dark money, the whole 9 yards. It's all led to this moment where there's no more law. It's just Donald Trump. And then Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who replaced him, decided she wouldn't have press conferences except for every few weeks. They were doing them every day, and now they only do them every few weeks. Why? Because her credibility was, left in tatters. Because she was battered. Yes, the expectations in real estate were lower, and even in that particular wheelhouse, this man was a failure. But, all those, hardball, fake things. He said, when he was pretending to be his own publicist and saying that he was a billionaire and telling Forbes, no, you got the numbers wrong. And, my name is whatever. And I work for Mr. Trump, and Mr. Trump is this, and Mr. Trump's a billionaire, and Mr. Trump is that. I mean, that might be hardball tactics in business. But it's illegal when you're the president and take an oath to uphold the Constitution and to execute faithfully the laws of the United States. Now he's got a team of prosecutors and FBI agents who are methodically and purposefully holding him to account for these lies, because you can't be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States and do this. You can't. And remember, Donald Trump wrote a fake memo to cover up for Junior's lies about the meeting in Trump Tower, which was an obvious collusion. It was an obvious conspiracy to defraud the United States. The Russians said that the government supported Donald Trump's candidacy and that they would supply the Trump candidacy, the Trump campaign, with dirt on Hillary Clinton. And they sit there and they actually bamboozle people and saying, well, nothing came of it. We watched it. We read the dirt. We saw what they had. They released it at critical points. Roger Stone knew when it was coming. He actually tweeted in August, Podesta's time in the barrel is coming. It's the next thing. Corsi has said, there's emails between Corsi and Stone. Our guy in the embassy has stuff on Podesta. The guy in the embassy. I mean, it's just so unbelievable that they were cooperating with a freaking murderer, with an oligarch, with a guy who, at the expense of his own people, enriches himself and becomes the richest man in the world, while Russians make $450 a month. I mean, and then Donald Trump is on an airplane, and Trump Jr.'s meeting becomes known, and so he writes to a fake letter. The legal team admits that Trump, not Donald Trump Jr., drafted this lie of a letter about the Trump Tower meeting between the Kremlin lawyer, between Cavallazzi, between Natalia Veselnitskaya. Why is he lying about the Trump Tower meeting if he says anybody would have taken that meeting? Why is Trump Jr. on TV denying that the meeting happened if it's just all okay? Listen, I tell you, this is really the most sickening thing. In the end, to know that the reason that the lies matter is because Vladimir Putin has the goods on our president. There's text messages, there's emails, there's people's whereabouts on any given date that Mueller has. Sam Nunberg, who was part of this, he was an advisor for a really long time to Donald Trump. He said that, people are conspiring against themselves. They're playing right into Mueller's hands. He said about Michael Flynn. He said if Michael Flynn would have just told the truth and said, yeah, he talked about sanctions, he might still be the national security advisor today. Instead, because they had guilty minds, which is proof of intent to defraud, they had guilty minds. He lied. And the reasons for the lies vary. But most often they were to protect themselves. Now, what Michael Cohen said in his allocution in court, and it was released Friday afternoon, he wrote this. He didn't write. He said this to the court when the court was, accepting the fact that, his sentencing would be put off till December 12th with a cooperation agreement supplied by Robert Mueller's office. So Cohen stood in front of the judge and he said, I made these misstatements to be consistent with individual one, that's Donald Trump. I can't believe the president is an unindicted co-conspirator at this point. He's an unindicted co-conspirator. Somebody's going to have to wrap their heads around that. And he has been ever since, he lied about the Michael Cohen payments to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, because when Cohen pleaded guilty to these campaign finance violations having to do with the Trump campaign, Donald Trump says, the things he was convicted of had nothing to do with us or our campaign. That's a lie. He was convicted of campaign violations, campaign finance fraud. And he said in the court in that allocution that he did it at the direction of and at the behest of Donald Trump. So Friday, he said, I made these misstatements to be consistent with Donald Trump's political messaging and out of loyalty to Donald Trump. He said in the weeks before he misled Congress, where he lied to Congress about the deal, he remained in close and regular contact with White House staff as well as with Mr. Trump's lawyers. Now, if it was all on the up and up, as Trump likes to tweet, why did they all lie and give ammunition to our adversaries to the point where two murderous villains in a bad freaking James Bond movie, the Saudi Crown Prince and Vladimir Putin, are high-fiving each other at the G20, and Donald Trump is left out in the cold. No one wanted to have anything to do with Donald Trump. Even the Chinese said, we don't care about him anymore. We're making our plans without the United States. We have an irresponsible, unreliable partner in the United States. And frankly, we're just going to move along without you. We don't care. We're going to become technologically independent. We're making our own freaking economy. We don't need you. We don't want you. Enjoy your 300 million people. We got 1 billion of them. And they're all becoming middle class now. And we don't want you. We don't need you. You are unreliable. Your word means nothing. I swear to God. China rises and we deteriorate. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.